Hey guys, welcome to JPT. I'm Carson G. This is Just Plain Tech. Today we're going to talk about Linux Mint, everything you need to know to start using it, and we'll get into it now. Okay, so for those of you who are familiar with Ubuntu or Debian, Ubuntu is based off Debian. So basically, if you guys are using Ubuntu, you'd be familiar with Debian. If you're using Debian, you'd be familiar with Ubuntu. It's kind of the same thing with that, with Linux Mint. If you're using Debian, you'll be familiar with Linux Mint. If you're using Ubuntu, you'll be familiar with Linux Mint. If you're using Linux Mint, you'll be familiar with Debian or Ubuntu. So they're kind of all tied together in that way a little bit. So they all use the apt package manager. So if you're familiar with doing like sudo apt-get install on Ubuntu or Debian, you can still do that on Linux Mint. Still use the synaptic package manager. And however, instead of the Ubuntu Software Center, it comes with the Mint install or the software manager, which is pretty much the same thing. So there's that. So it's really similar to Ubuntu or Debian, but kind of unlike Ubuntu, a little bit similar to Debian. As you probably know, Debian has many desktop environments that you can choose from. Ubuntu is just Ubuntu. It only has one. You can get other derivatives of Ubuntu, like Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu Xubuntu, Zubuntu, whatever it's called, Kubuntu, stuff like that. Different versions of Ubuntu with desktop environments. Linux Mint is much more simpler than that, such as Debian. Debian just asks you which desktop environment you'd want to choose when you install your operating system. Linux Mint is kind of like that. You've got the choice between Cinnamon, a sleek, modern, and innovative desktop environment. Comes with many new features all the time, and it's kind of a high-techy, modern thing. Alright? But it does take up a little more CPU, and especially on older computers, there'd be a little more lag than other desktop environments such as Mate or Mate, which is a stable, robust, and traditional desktop environment. It's a little more traditional. It'll feel a little more familiar to Windows users, a little bit. Not just barely, it barely falls behind Cinnamon in customization. Cinnamon has a lot of customization. Mate, whatever, is not far behind. So that is pretty great. But Mate or Mate is faster especially on old computers. It's a little bit faster in performance than Cinnamon. So XFCE is even lighter than Mate, a little bit faster, but they're pretty much tied in speed. Even on old computers, I still found that Mate and XFCE are pretty much tied. So XFCE is light, simple, and efficient desktop environment. Not that much desktop and customization, not that much. But it's really nice, really quick, and XFCE would probably be the most familiar to Windows users. So yeah, if you are really not that much of a computer nerd, you're just switching to Linux for the free software, or the not bugging you about updates, or the, I don't know, just the speed. If that's why you're switching, you might want to go with XFCE just because it'd probably be familiar to you. If you don't want to adjust something completely different, but you're just switching to Linux, either to try it out or because you have a good reason to, then XFCE would probably be the best for you. Most likely you've got a 64-bit computer, but if you have an old 32-bit PC, so Linux Mint 19.3 and below will support 32-bit, but Linux Mint 20, which is the latest version at the time of this video, supports 64-bit only. Any other version is 32-bit, but only Linux Mint 20. Linux Mint 20 is only 64-bit. Other versions have had 64-bit and 32-bit, but Linux Mint is 64-bit only. That shouldn't be a problem for you. Linux Mint 20, you should be able to run it on your computer most likely. But 19.3 is still supported till 2023. 3 more years, so you could still use that. And of course, if you have a 32-bit PC, 2023 isn't a used by date. It just will stop receiving support in 2023. You can obviously still use it by that time. So, yeah, Linux Mint, most of the releases are long-term support, which pretty much means that they're supported for 5 years. So, support is pretty nice. It's a little... So, here's how you know if it's a long-term support. It will say Linux Mint 19.3 LTS or 20 LTS. LTS stands for long-term support. So, if it says LTS, you're supported for a good 5 years or something, which is pretty nice. So, I hope that wasn't very overwhelming, but that's pretty much everything you need to know when it comes to Linux Mint, and that's all you need to know to start doing it. So, you can check out this video up here so you can know how to format a USB so you can install Linux or even just try it out without installing it on your computer. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you in tomorrow's video. You're watching Just Plain Tech.